In 1965, the installation of a water pipeline led to the discovery of a 1,700-year-old synagogue in an Israeli nature preserve near the Dead Sea. Inside the ruins of the synagogue, excavators found a tiny scroll that was burned beyond recognition. At least that's what they thought at the time. Here's CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell with the rest of the story.
Near the shores of the Dead Sea is the desert oasis of Ein Gedi. In the Bible, it's the hiding place of David and a place of inspiration for Solomon. To the north is Qumran, where the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered. And to the south, the ruins of Herod's fortress at Masada. Today, Ein Gedi is a nature reserve, one of Israel's most beautiful national parks, and the site of an extraordinary archaeological discovery. The ancient settlement of Ein Gedi was destroyed by a fire in the 7th century. After the fire, the settlement was abandoned until 1970, when the ruins of the community synagogue were excavated.
They found within the synagogue the holy place, the bama, with the Bible, and they found it all in ashes. And in the ashes, they found a hoard of coins, they found a menorah, and they found a massive amount of ashes that already then they suspected were a scroll. But it was ashes.
Forensics experts tried to decipher the rolled-up scroll, which looked like a cigar. But in 1970, the technology was limited. So eventually the scroll was stored at the Israel Museum. Fast forward to 2015, when archaeologist Sefi Porat retrieved the burned scroll and took it to a team of conservators who work with the Dead Sea Scrolls.
One day he walks in here with this, it was still the top of one of the boxes with all these ashes, and says, "Can you please image this?" And I said, "Sefi, you must be joking. This is ashes." He says, "Yes, but they said you have such a system." I said, "Yeah, it's not miracles though. I mean, it's not as if the ashes can come back to life." Eventually it turned out that they could. Nobody, by the way, touches the scrolls. I don't touch them either. It's only these 4 or 5 conservators. And we did a CT scan, a tomography of all of these. And already then, it seemed as if that piece of charcoal was the most promising.
The Israeli team sent 3D scans of the scroll to the University of Kentucky, where Professor Brent Seals used digital imaging to virtually unwrap the scroll and reveal part of the text. After 45 years, the puzzle was finally solved.
He actually looked and saw that within these layers, he could decipher, he could pull out a layer that eventually turned out to be the first chapter of the book of Leviticus. And you can see it, you can read it. How do we know? Because we can read it now. It was amazing. To me, everything is kind of symbolic. And I remember the day that we realized that this is, the book of Leviticus. It was like, we looked at the computer and we said, unbelievable. And I wrote to Brent Seals, "You won't believe what you've deciphered, what you've uncovered."
The Ein Gedi scroll is the second oldest biblical scroll to be discovered, and the oldest ever to be found inside a synagogue.
This scroll was carbon dated, remember, to the 3rd, 4th century. Why did this work? Because the ink that the Ein Gedi scroll was written with probably has iron in it. We realized that the Ein Gedi scroll is different because it has ink, and therefore it is legible with this virtual 3D. It can identify the iron that is in this ink. Look how symbolic that the first chapter of the book of Leviticus talks about the sacrifices of the temple. Okay, and here we are, and what happens to the sacrifices? They turn into ashes, and here we are bringing alive these ashes. And this was right before Tisha B'Av, which is the day of the destruction of the temple. So everything was very, very symbolic. We were really, in awe. It was like, we're bringing back to life these ashes.
Quite remarkable. Oracles of God, the story of the New Testament, introduces you to the earliest followers of Jesus. It's the latest documentary from CBN Films, and it explores how the Gospels, letters, and eyewitness testimonies were preserved from the first century and passed down through the generations. It's a film that captures all the drama, the danger, and the divine power behind the book that changed the world. For 3 days only, November 2nd, 3rd, and 5th, you can experience this film in theaters nationwide. To get your tickets, go to cbn.com/tickets. Quite remarkable.
It is quite remarkable, the story of how we got the scriptures. And here's the most remarkable part, the Bible that the disciples had, and then the Bible that the disciples created. Both the Old Testament and New Testament is the same Bible we're reading today. It's identical. It's been passed through faithfully through the generations.